In this video, we're going to show you to install the AC condenser and receiver dryer on your Toyota RAV4 located in front of your radiator. Using a 10mm wrench, go ahead and loosen the ground terminal on the battery. Pop that off and set it aside. Removing the front splash shield here. There's going to be a series of 10mm screws across the front. There should be one right here. It is broken as well on our passenger side. Go ahead and use your 10mm or a Phillips head screwdriver to loosen and remove these. If you follow around the splash shield, there's a couple plastic buttons here. There's two more on the driver's side, two more on the passenger side. You want to go ahead and use your trim tool. Go ahead and remove these here. Ours has a mix of buttons here, so we know someone's already been in here. But go ahead and remove all of these here, and once you have all the plastic buttons out, you can go ahead and just remove the whole splash shield. Remove the upper engine cover by simply grabbing the edges and pulling it straight up. Now with the hood open, you want to go ahead and access this upper cover here. Now there's a series of plastic push pins holding it in place. You want to use a small pocket screwdriver, push down on the center, and then you can use your trim tool. Go ahead and get underneath and lift up that button. You're going to continue to do this for the rest of the buttons across the whole front. I'm missing one there. And you should have one on the upper right here. Ours is missing. Go ahead and slide this out from underneath the lip of the grill and set that aside. Across the top of this beam right here, there are going to be three 10mm bolts, one for the battery bracket and these two here for coolant lines. On the battery hold-on bracket, there's another 10mm nut here. Go ahead and loosen that. You can remove it if you want. We just wanted to make sure that we had enough room to move this around. Now there's four 12mm bolts that we need to remove. There's one here, one on the front side, and there's two on the other end of this here. Go ahead and loosen and remove these. We're going to use a wrench for the lower. Once you have these two out, go ahead and repeat for the other side. Now at this point, I want to go ahead and try and lift up this beam. The hood latch is going to come up with it, as well as these brackets. I'm going to pull these brackets off here. And then we'll just swing that off to the side. Along the top of your radiator and fan assembly, there's this cover. There's going to be two 12mm bolts. There's one here on the driver's side. Loosen and remove that, and do the same for the other side. Now I want to go ahead and lift up on this cover here. You're going to need maybe a little pocket screwdriver or a pick. And on the back side by the fan assembly, there's going to be a little locking tab. You want to lift up on this and release that lock tab. And then there's one on the passenger side. Pull that off and set it aside. So we're underneath the passenger side of the vehicle, and we're going to bring you up underneath the back side of our bumper cover and slide you up here. And there is the lower AC condenser line. There's a 10mm bolt right there. So we're going to go ahead and loosen and remove that and pull that hard line off of the lower portion of the AC condenser. And then we'll go back up top, and we'll do the same for the upper line. Now, the only tool that I could get in there to undo that bolt was a rigid 10mm wrench. And it'll take you a few minutes to get that loose. But once you do, you can go ahead and remove that bolt. Here we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the metal line out of the condenser, and you might hear a small little pop or a hiss. And that's just a tiny bit of the gases being released from the condenser. Let's go ahead and move to the upper portion. Let's go ahead and get that upper bolt. And you don't have a lot of clearance here, so it's going to take you a little bit of time, just like it is for the bottom. But just take your time, work at it, and get that bolt all the way out. With the two lines removed off of the AC condenser, go ahead and gently wiggle that up, pull it up and out. So we went ahead and laid our AC condenser on top of our new one, and we want to swap over the rubber bushings onto the studs on our new unit. So I'm just going to grab a pair of pliers and just gently twist these. Pop those off, swap them over, and we're going to do this for the other three. Before we install the AC condenser, you want to go ahead and grab the connections here and inspect the O-rings on both the upper and lower connections. If the O-rings are worn or you can see shavings or any tears in it, you need to replace them now. Both of ours look good. We're going to take a little bit of AC system PAG oil, and I'm just going to use my finger with a glove and put some oil around that O-ring. I'm going to do the same for the bottom one. Now, before we lower this down, you want to make sure that you get these rubber grommets down into the lower panel right in front of the radiator. There's going to be a hole down on the passenger side and one on the driver side, so we'll wiggle this down into place. Now, before we drop that in there, I'm going to try and get that upper AC line pressed into the side of the condenser while I can fit my hand in there. Make sure you remove the little rubber plugs off of the ports before you do that, because otherwise that's not going to fit. Line that up. All right, once you have the upper line in place, we want to grab one of the bolts. Go ahead and feed that bolt down into place. So tighten that down as far as we can by hand. And then we'll come on in with our wrench. Gently push the radiator and the condenser towards the engine. That gives a little bit more room. And then once that's bottomed out, you want to just gently snug that. Now when you're tightening this down, you want to do an inspection between the connection and the condenser and make sure that it's tight all the way down to make sure that we have a good seal. And we do. So we're going to go ahead and raise the vehicle and get to the lower connection next. So at this point here, we can go ahead and line up the lower portion here. Now that we have the hard line connected to the AC condenser, we can go ahead and install the bolt and we'll snug that down. Okay, now that it's bottomed out, we're just going to give it a little bit more just to snug that in, and you're all set with those lines. Install the splash shield. Now right here, there would normally be another screw. Ours is broken, but if you have your screw here, go ahead and install that. We're gonna go ahead and repeat this for the driver's side. Now that we have all of our main screws sitting all the way across, I'm gonna come back and tighten all of these down. Once we have all of these snug, we're now gonna go ahead and start moving further back on the splash shield. Push up the splash shield. Install your plastic push pins here, and then one a little bit further forward. Go ahead and install your buttons for the back end here. Install the upper molding here. Line this up. Install your 2 bolts. Just gently snug those down. They don't have to be super tight. Install our cross brace here. Now you have to manipulate the expansion tank line here a little bit because that fits on top of this. So just kind of manipulate that up and over. You want to get this lined up and get the bushings lined up with our radiator support. Push that down into place, and we'll get our bolts in. Once we get these 2 bolts in over here, repeat for the passenger side. Now, I'm not going to tighten those bolts down yet. I want to go ahead and get some other brackets secured here. So I'm going to bring over our battery hold down. Get that bolt started. And we have our expansion tank brackets here. Let's go ahead and get these bolts started as well. Okay. Now, when lining this up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the washers from our bolts to the marks here. And that's going to help us line this up because this bracket, this cross member, has our hood catch or release attached to it. So as you bring that down, we can see that that's pretty much lined up perfect. If it's not, just move that bracket left or right to get that lined up. Then we can go ahead and snug things down. You can use your regular ratchet or your gear wrench here. I'm going to tighten down the 4 big bolts first, and then we'll go back and tighten down the smaller ones. Once that bottoms out, you do want to go ahead and make sure that's good and tight. And do the same for the other side. Once you have that secured, come back in with your 10 millimeter. Go ahead and snug down that battery hold down bracket. Go ahead and just gently snug that into place. And the same thing here. Once the bolt bottoms out, just give it a little bit more. The brackets are designed just to support the cooling line. Secure the rear of the battery here. Now when tightening this down, just kind of move that bracket, and once it stops moving, pretty much secure at that point there. You don't want to crush the battery. Just make sure that cross member or cross brace secures that. Go ahead and snug that down. When installing the front cover here, you want to make sure that the upper lip here, or the forward lip, goes underneath the edge of the grill. Tuck that in all the way around. Once that's in, go ahead and install all of your plastic retainer buttons. We're now going to go ahead and install an upper engine cover here. There should be 3 rubber grommets in a triangular pattern. Make sure that the rubber grommet is on this and not on the engine itself on the studs. Good, line that up, pop it into place. Now at this point here, we're all set with the engine assembly itself. You want to go ahead and bring the vehicle down and have the AC system recharged. At that point there, you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.